I unlocked my door at 10:47 p.m., already rehearsing the apology I owed myself for working late again. The lights were on. My father sat at the kitchen island like he owned it. My mother stood beside him, calm, composed. My brother leaned against the counter, scrolling his phone, as if this were a casual visit. "You're late," my mother said, not angry, not worried, just noting a fact, the way someone marks time on a receipt. I set my bag down slowly. "How did you get in emergency access?" My father replied. "You gave it to us years ago." Matthew didn't look up. "We wouldn't be here if it wasn't serious." My father folded his hands. "We need $92,000. Abigail, tonight." For what I asked. Though I already knew. "Your brother made a mistake," my mother said softly, "and families handle mistakes internally. I'm not paying it," I said. The word hung there, clean and final. My mother reached into her purse and placed a folder on the marble counter. She slid it toward me with 2 fingers, as if it were something fragile. "We filed this earlier today," she said. "A temporary conservatorship, just until things stabilize." I opened it. Medical language. Legal language. A therapist's note from a single appointment I barely remembered, repurposed into something ugly. My father's voice lowered. "If the court agrees, we can protect you from yourself. From reckless decisions." "You mean from saying no?" I said. Silence. Then my mother smiled, thin and practiced. "We're doing this because we love you." That was the moment the room changed. The story in the video is a creative work by Revenge Mosaicum. All characters and events are fictional, crafted to convey a humanistic message and the values of family. I didn't argue. I didn't raise my voice. I just closed the folder. The hearing was in 48 hours. If they won, I would lose signing authority at work. My current project worth $120 million would be reassigned before the week ended. As they walked out, my mother paused at the door. "Call us when you calm down." The lock clicked behind them. If you've ever been told concern can justify control, stay with me. What happened next wasn't loud. It was precise. I stood in the kitchen long after they left, the folder still warm where my hands had pressed it shut. My phone vibrated before midnight. My aunt from Virginia texted first. "Your parents are worried. Please call them." 5 minutes later, a cousin I barely spoke to. "Heard you're going through something. We're here for you. By 1 a.m. The message was clear. They had already chosen the story. I opened the petition again. Slower this time. Every sentence was polished, reasonable, compassionate. Words like temporary, protective, out of concern. Nothing in it sounded violent. That was the point. My father called at 1:15. "You don't need to do this the hard way," he said, voice steady. "We can withdraw the filing if you cooperate." Cooperate how I asked. A pause. Calculated. "Transfer the money. Let us manage things until you're stable again." "I am stable," I said. "You froze when we asked," he replied. "That's not normal. Abigail." I smiled without warmth. "What's not normal is filing paperwork to control your adult daughter." He exhaled sharply. "You're proving our case." When the line went dead, I understood something I hadn't before. This wasn't about money anymore. It was about narrative. By morning, concern would become consensus. I opened my laptop and created a single note. I titled it Timeline. Dates, calls, messages. The hearing was 48 hours away. If they were going to make me sound unstable, I would make myself undeniable. I didn't sleep. I didn't pace. I worked. At 2:30 a.m., I called the First Credit Bureau. The woman on the line sounded bored until I said the word conservatorship. "We'll place a full security freeze," she said. "You'll need a personal code." "I already have one," I replied. By 3. All 3 were locked. No new accounts, no loans, no quiet changes made in my name. At 3:45, my phone rang again. My mother. "You're awake," she said, as if pleased. "I'm busy." With what her tone sharpened. "Please tell me you're not doing something impulsive." I logged into my primary account while she spoke. I transferred $268,000 into an investment holding account she didn't know existed. "I'm organizing," I said. "That sounds manic," she replied softly. "This is exactly what the judge needs to hear." I ended the call and moved to payroll next. I removed my direct deposit details. My monthly income, $13,600, would sit untouched until I decided otherwise. At 4:20, an email notification flashed across my screen. Human Resources. Subject line, Quick Check-in. It wasn't a coincidence. I forwarded it to a private folder labeled Evidence. At 5, I finally sat back. Everything I could lock. I had locked. Everything they might twist. I had documented. The sun hadn't risen yet, but the war had already shifted. I opened the file I hadn't touched in years. The name was still the same: family support. Row after row filled the screen. Tuition gaps, legal fees, emergency transfers labeled temporary. I added the most recent line and watched the total recalculate. $401,000. I stared at the number until it stopped feeling abstract. It wasn't generosity. It wasn't love. It was rent. My phone rang again. This time, my father didn't bother with pleasantries. "You're escalating," he said. "That's not how a stable person behaves. I paid for your stability for 9 years. I replied. "You were compensated." He snapped. "We raised you. We invested in you." There it was, clean, unfiltered. "I'm not an investment," I said. A short laugh. "Everything is an investment, Abigail. Some just perform better than others." The call ended. No goodbye. I scrolled back through the spreadsheet, through versions of myself who believed access meant safety and silence meant peace. I highlighted the entire table. For the first time, I didn't feel guilty. I felt precise. I saved a copy to my secure drive and closed the file. Not deleted. Not yet. Outside the spreadsheet, their concern sounded softer. Inside it, the truth was brutal and exact. I stood up, steady, and prepared for what came next. The meeting was canceled at 9:12 a.m. No explanation. Just a calendar update marked postponed, followed by a polite message from a partner I'd worked with for 6 years. "We're going to take a breath and regroup." By 10, Human Resources called. "We've received some concerns," the woman said carefully. "About your well-being." From whom I asked. She hesitated. "From people who care about you." At 11, a client I trusted texted. "Everything okay on your end? Heard some things. Just checking." I closed my eyes and counted my breaths. This was no longer about money. They were peeling me away from my own life. One soft sentence at a time. My mother called just after noon. "We're worried you're isolating," she said. "That's a warning sign. You contacted my workplace," I replied. A pause. Then, "We did what we had to do." "To protect me," I said. "To protect everyone," she corrected. "You don't see how unstable this looks." "I see exactly how it looks," I said. "You're trying to make sure no one listens to me." Her voice cooled. "Careful. Abigail, paranoia won't help your case." The call ended, and something in me finally went still. I didn't call a lawyer. Not yet. I pulled up a contact I hadn't used in years. Rebecca Vaughn answered on the second ring. "I was wondering when you'd stop trying to survive quietly." She said, "They filed for conservatorship," I told her, "and they're dismantling my reputation." "Good," she replied. "That means they're scared. I need facts," I said, "not comfort." A brief pause. Then, "Be at my office in 1 hour. Bring everything, and stop apologizing for wanting your life back." I hung up and gathered my files. The war had found my name. I was done letting it rewrite me. Rebecca Vaughn didn't stand when I entered her office. She didn't smile. She glanced at her watch and said, "You're late by 4 minutes. I came straight from being polite to people trying to cage you," she said. "Sit." I did. She skimmed the conservatorship filing without comment, flipping pages faster than I could track. When she reached the therapist's letter, she stopped. "1 session," she said. "Burnout. No diagnosis. They stretched this thin on purpose. They're telling everyone I'm unstable." I said. "They're building a record," she replied. "Courts love patterns." I slid my folder across the table. I documented everything. She finally looked at me then. "Good. Survivors bring feelings. Clients bring timelines." She pressed a button on her desk. 2 associates entered. Quiet. Efficient. Already opening laptops. "We're not arguing your mental health," Rebecca said. "That's a losing game. We're changing the battlefield." To what I asked. "Money," she said. "And control." She turned the screen toward me. "Property records. Trust filings. Dates highlighted in red. I've suspected irregularities for years," she said. "Your grandmother didn't trust your father. That doesn't disappear without paperwork. She told me there was nothing left." I said, "Medical bills. Probate." Rebecca's mouth tightened. "That story gets used when someone wants time." One associate spoke without looking up. "The house in Newton shows a transfer linked to a trust, not in your parents' names." Rebecca nodded. "Good. Pull the beneficiary." The associate paused. "It's Abigail Monroe." The room went quiet. "They didn't file for conservatorship because you said no," Rebecca said calmly. "They filed because the clock is running out." On what she met my eyes. On the truth. Rebecca spread the documents across the table, arranging them the way surgeons lay out instruments. "Your grandmother didn't leave chaos," she said. She left instructions. She tapped a page. "An irrevocable trust, established years before her death. Quiet. Precise. My father said there was no will." I replied. "He said everything went to medical debt." Rebecca's voice stayed even. "That's a common lie. It buys time. Sometimes decades." One of the associates turned his screen toward me. "The property in Newton was transferred into the trust the same week your grandmother died. Transferred to whom I asked. Though my pulse had already answered." He swallowed. "The trust lists a single beneficiary. Abigail Monroe." The words didn't land all at once. They stacked, slowly, heavily. "My parents live there," I said. "Yes," Rebecca replied. "They've been living there without ownership, without rent, without disclosure." I pressed my fingers into the table. For how long? Rebecca checked a date. 9 years, past the age trigger for asset transfer. "The conservatorship," I said. "It wasn't about my brother's debt." "No," she said. "That was noise. This is signal." She slid another document forward. "There's an automatic audit clause tied to your upcoming birthday. If control shifts or questions arise, the trust forces a review." My throat tightened. "So they needed me declared unfit." "They needed you legally paused," Rebecca said. "If you're incapacitated, your father stays trustee. The house stays quiet. The audit never starts." The associate cleared his throat. "If the court sides with them, they could freeze your authority entirely." Rebecca looked at me. "That's why they attacked your reputation first. Money was leverage. Your name was the target." I leaned back, breathing carefully. Every memory rewrote itself. Every favor. Every lecture about gratitude. "They aren't protecting me," I said. Rebecca nodded once. "They're protecting their theft." I stood. "Then we stop asking permission." Her expression sharpened. "Good. Because tomorrow, we go to court." My parents sat across the room like a portrait of concern. My mother wore soft colors. My father kept his hands folded, eyes lowered. Matthew stared at the wall, bored, as if this were an inconvenience scheduled between lunches. Their attorney spoke first. "Ms. Monroe has displayed escalating instability," he said calmly. "Financial isolation, paranoid documentation, abrupt withdrawal from trusted relationships." Rebecca didn't interrupt. She watched. She waited. The judge turned to me. "Ms. Monroe, do you deny freezing your accounts? I secured them," I said, "after my parents filed to take control of my life." My mother dabbed her eyes. "We're terrified," she said. "She won't listen to us anymore." Rebecca stood then. "Your Honor, we are not here to debate emotions." The judge raised a hand. "Mental fitness is the issue before this court." Rebecca nodded. "Then let's discuss the motive behind this filing." She placed a document on the table. "The petitioners are currently residing in a property held by an irrevocable trust. A trust they do not own." The courtroom shifted. Chairs creaked. Matthew finally looked up. Rebecca continued, voice steady. "My client is the sole beneficiary. The petitioners delayed transfer beyond the legal threshold and moved to suspend her capacity when an audit became imminent." The judge frowned. "Is that accurate?" The opposing attorney hesitated. My father looked at the floor. Rebecca didn't press. She simply waited. The silence thickened, heavy with consequence. The judge leaned back, fingers steepled. "Counsel, were you aware of this trust?" The opposing attorney swallowed. "Your Honor, this information was not disclosed to us." My father's jaw tightened. My mother's hand froze mid-gesture. Rebecca spoke softly. "Failure to disclose is not an oversight, it's intent." The judge turned to my parents. "You filed for conservatorship while occupying property you did not own. That alone raises serious concerns." My mother found her voice. "We were safeguarding it. For her." For 9 years, the judge replied. "Silence. I am denying the petition," he said, with prejudice. The gavel struck once. Clean. Final. He continued. "This matter is referred for investigation into fiduciary misconduct and misrepresentation to the court." Matthew whispered my name. I didn't look at him. Rebecca leaned toward me. "Stand." I did. As we walked out, my father said, "You didn't have to destroy us." I paused long enough to answer. "I didn't destroy anything." Then I kept walking. I didn't go home to celebrate. I went back to work. A week later, a property management firm emailed confirmation. Notices served, locks scheduled, handled professionally, no signatures from me required. That night, I opened the spreadsheet one last time. Family support, $401,000. I highlighted every row and deleted it. Not forgiveness. Closure. I opened a blank document and typed a single line. Access does not equal love. The next morning, I signed a contract at the job site. My name. My authority. If you've ever had to choose yourself when family tried to erase you, stay with this story. Share it. Someone else may still think silence is the price of belonging.